Look, if today you opened a drawer, a closet or a room in your house and you felt that strange tiredness, that sigh that comes out on its own, as if saying, "Oh, again," then this video is exactly for you. Because today I'm not going to talk about organizing, nor about cleaning, nor about throwing things away just because. Today I want to talk to you about something much deeper, about the Japanese mindset to eliminate nonsense and stop accumulating. Even those things that nobody sees, but that still weigh on you. And before starting with the first one, stay with me until you get to the fifth, because there I'm going to reveal something terrible that almost all of us do without realizing it, and that is sabotaging our home. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to share with you a secret, a gift or a very special trick that is truly worth hearing. Look, I'm going to tell you something that is almost never said. Some time ago, reading about everyday life in Japan, I came across a phrase that left me frozen. It said something like, "A messy house is an unfinished conversation." And I swear, I spent hours thinking about that. Because when I opened my house with that idea in my head, I realized something very strong. I wasn't accumulating things. I was accumulating decisions not made. Stored emotions. Stages that I hadn't closed. And there I understood that the Japanese don't eliminate the way we think. They don't say this is useful or this isn't useful. They ask themselves completely different things. The first thing they do, and that almost nobody tells because it hurts to say it out loud, is that they don't keep objects that represent an old version of themselves. And when I say this, I say it carefully, because I know something inside of us tightens up here. Because we don't just keep things. We keep who we were. We keep the clothes from when the body was different, from when we had more energy, more desire, less tiredness. We keep utensils from when the house was full, from when we cooked for many, from when there was noise, laughter, dishes everywhere. We keep papers, notebooks, memories, from stages that no longer exist, but that we don't want to fully accept that they ended. And this has nothing bad about it. It's human. It's deeply human. But in Japan there is a very silent idea, very little said, that shook me inside. They believe that when a person lives surrounded by objects that no longer represent their present, their energy stays trapped in the past. Not because they are superstitious, but because they see it in the body, in the mood, in the way of moving inside the house. Look, imagine this. You open the closet and you see clothes that you no longer wear, that don't fit you, that don't identify you. Even if you don't think it consciously, something inside you compares itself. It judges itself. It gets a little sad. It's like a constant whisper that says before yes. And that whisper tires you. A lot. The Japanese don't ask, is this good? They ask, does this speak about the person I am today? And that question, is strong. I remember perfectly the day when I took a garment in my hands and I thought, these clothes are not for me now. And I didn't say it with anger, nor with resignation. I said it with a strange mix of nostalgia and respect. Respect for the woman I was, and respect for the woman I am. Because one thing they understand very well is that honoring the past does not mean living surrounded by it. Letting go of an old version of yourself is not betraying yourself. It's updating yourself. And here there is something that almost nobody says, but I know you have felt it. Many times we don't let go of those things because doing so would be accepting that a stage ended. That the children grew up. That the house is no longer the same. That the body changed. That life moved on. And accepting that. Oh, that hurts. Not because it's bad, but because it implies grief. A silent grief, without funerals, without hugs, without social permission to cry it. In Japan, grief is not always cried with tears. Sometimes it is honored by letting go. When I started taking out of my house things that belonged to another stage, I felt something very strange. At first it was fear, like being left without a part of me. But then, I swear, relief came. As if the space said, thank you. As if my body could move without bumping into memories at every step. And it's not that now I live without memories. No, I live with the ones I consciously choose. Because when your house reflects who you are today, not who you were 20 years ago, something inside settles. The house stops being an emotional museum and becomes a living place. Current. Yours. And let me tell you this, looking at you with affection, You don't have to prove anything to anyone by keeping things that no longer represent you. You don't have to prove that you were a good mother, a good wife, a good homemaker, by keeping everything. That is already in you. It doesn't live in an object. Letting go of those things does not erase your story. It honors it, and lets you move forward. And when you give that permission, order stops hurting. It becomes an act of self-love. The second thing that impacted me so much, and that when I understood it, it left me thinking for whole days, is that the Japanese do not accumulate objects that are waiting to be used correctly. And this, even though it seems simple, is one of the most silent traps of accumulation. Because we have houses full of things on pause. The pretty dishware that isn't touched. The special cup that isn't for every day. The clothes that are kept for when I lose weight, for an important visit, for a moment that never arrives. In Japan there is an idea that seemed very harsh to me but very real. If something only exists for an ideal future, then today it doesn't exist. It's dead. It's frozen in an expectation. And tell me, how many things do you have saved for later? Later for what? For when the house is perfect. For when you are perfect. For when life magically lines up. That is postponing life. And we don't do it because we are stupid or exaggerated. We do it because we were taught that good things are taken care of by not using them. That what is special is reserved. That you are not enough of a reason to use something beautiful for the first time. The Japanese see this completely the other way around. For them, using the good in everyday life is a form of respect for life. They don't wait for a perfect occasion because they understand something that we sometimes forget. The occasion is today. And tomorrow is not guaranteed. I'll tell you something that happened to me. One day, almost without thinking about it, I used a cup that I had kept for years. Years. And while I drank tea, I felt a strange emotion. Like tenderness. Like saying to myself, why did you keep this for so long? And there I understood that I wasn't keeping the cup. I was keeping the permission to enjoy. When I started using the pretty dishware, the nice clothes, the special things, something very curious happened. I stopped wanting to buy more. Because there was no longer lack. There was no longer waiting. There was no longer that feeling of someday. I was living now. And that calms you so much. In Japan they believe that things deteriorate more by not being used than by being used. And if you think about it, it's true. The clothes turn yellow. The objects fill with dust. But more than that, they fill with sadness. With abandonment. With an unfulfilled promise. And here comes something important, especially for us, women who have spent our lives taking care of others. You do not need a special occasion to deserve what is beautiful. You don't need visits, nor celebrations, nor permission. Being alive is already reason enough. When you use what is special today, accumulation loses meaning. Because you are no longer waiting for life to start. It already started. And you are inside it. The third is very curious and almost nobody mentions it, and when I read it for the first time I also thought this sounds weird. But then when I looked at it closely, it was impossible not to see it. In Japan there is the more observational than mystical belief that objects absorb the emotional state of the home. Not because they have magic, but because they become inevitably linked to the moment when they arrived in your life. They pay a lot of attention to that. They don't like to surround themselves with things that were born in the middle of stress, of a fight, of extreme tiredness or of sadness, because they know that those objects, even if they don't speak, keep telling that story in silence. And then I started to look at my house with other eyes. That piece of furniture that I assembled in a hurry, tired, even crying, while thinking why did I get myself into this? That box that I saved in a difficult moment, without desire, just to get it out of the way. That bag that is always there, that doesn't bother enough to throw it away, but that every time I see it produces immediate annoyance in me. And I swear, it wasn't a coincidence. Every time my eyes crossed with certain objects, my body reacted before my head. An involuntary sigh. The shoulders that tense up. That tiny but constant feeling of discomfort that you don't know how to explain. In Japan they observe the body a lot. They trust those small reactions. For them, if an object generates rejection, discomfort or tension, even if it works, it is already saying something important. Because a house is not only a functional place, it is an emotional space. And when it is full of things associated with hard moments, the body never fully rests. It lives on alert, even if it doesn't realize it. When I started to eliminate those objects not all at once, calmly I felt something I didn't expect. It wasn't only that the space looked more tidy. It was like turning down the volume of an internal noise that had been on for years. The house became more silent, but not an empty silence. A kind silence. Like when you turn off the television after a long day and you finally hear your own breathing. And there I understood that many times we are not tired because of what we do, but because of what surrounds us. And that choosing what we live with is not a luxury. It is a form of care. The fourth. Oh, this was brutal for me. Truly. Because here we are no longer talking only about things. We are talking about internal conversations that we don't want to have. In Japan there is a very silent but very honest understanding of this. They don't keep objects to avoid facing what they feel. And when I read that, something inside me moved strongly. Because many of us accumulate not because we need the things, but because letting them go would mean accepting something that hurts. That a stage ended. That someone didn't come back. That a dream didn't happen the way we imagined. That the house no longer sounds the same. And while the object is still there, it's as if the story were not completely closed. I started to realize that I had things that were not nice memories, they were emotional pauses. Objects that allowed me not to look straight at certain changes. A box that said, someday. A piece of furniture that represented a different life. Clothes that I didn't wear, but that kept me tied to an old idea of myself. And when I finally sat down to look at that honestly, I swear I felt fear. Sadness. A soft but deep sadness. Because letting go was not throwing away a thing, it was accepting a truth. And accepting truths tires you. But at the same time, something very unexpected appeared, relief. Like when you say out loud something you had kept for years. The Japanese understand that while a story is not closed, the energy remains trapped. It doesn't move. It doesn't flow. And the house begins to feel heavy, even if it is clean. Because every pending object is an unfinished conversation with yourself. And living surrounded by that wears you down more than we think. When I started to let go of those objects, I didn't do it fast. I sat with them. I looked at them. I recognized them. And then I let them go. And I didn't feel emptiness. I felt space. Inner space. Emotional space. As if I could finally breathe without explaining anything to myself. And look, if while you listen to this you feel a knot in your chest, if there is something that you already know you don't need but it still is hard for you to let go, I want to tell you something with a lot of affection. You are not alone. Truly. And if it comes from you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like and leave me a comment. Tell me what thing you feel is hard for you to let go of, even though you already know you don't need it. Here we don't judge. Here we understand each other. Here we talk like real women, with real stories. The fifth, and pay close attention here because this is exactly what I warned you about at the beginning, is something that almost all of us do without realizing it, and that seems logical, even responsible, but that in reality is wearing us down inside. We believe that the more things we keep, the safer we are. More prepared. More protected against what might happen. And this is so embedded in us that we don't even question it. We keep because what if it's missing? Because what if later? Because you never know. But in Japan something completely different happens. They associate excessive accumulation not with foresight, but with fear of the future. With distrust in one's own ability to solve. And when I read that, oof, I swear it hit me heavy. It made me uncomfortable. Because I saw myself reflected. I started to look at my things with that idea in my head, and it was very revealing. I realized how many things were not there because of usefulness, but because of fear. Fear of not having. Fear of needing and not being able. Fear of falling short. Fear of failing. Every kept object was, deep down, a just-in-case full of anxiety. And living like that is tiring. It is much more tiring than we think. Because it's not only the space that things occupy, it's the constant message we give ourselves. I don't trust that I will be able to solve. I don't trust that I will be fine. Better to carry this, just in case something happens. In Japan, they understand that security does not come from having everything, but from trusting one's own ability to adapt. They believe that accumulating excessively is a way of telling life, "I don't trust you." And that, even if we don't think of it that way, is felt in the body. It is felt like constant tension, like an alert that never completely turns off. I realized that many of the things I kept did not give me tranquility. They gave me weight. They reminded me all the time that I was living from fear. When I started to eliminate from that place, something changed deeply. It was no longer, "I'm going to throw this away because it's not useful." It was, "I'm going to let this go because I trust myself." And that was very powerful. Eliminating became an act of trust. Trust that I can solve. That I don't need to carry everything to be safe. That life is not faced by accumulating, but by being present, clear and light. And I tell you something with a lot of honesty. Letting go from trust does not leave you empty. It leaves you strong. It leaves you more secure than any object kept out of fear. Because when you trust yourself, the house stops being a bunker and becomes a home. A place that holds you, not a place that reminds you of everything you fear losing. The sixth is beautiful, truly, and when I understood it, I felt as if someone had taken a weight off me that I had been carrying for years without realizing it. The Japanese do not try for the house to represent them outwardly. They don't seek to impress anyone. They don't think about the visit, nor about other people's opinion, nor about how everything will look from the outside. They think of the house as a place that must sustain them on the inside. A space that takes care of them, that calms them, that accompanies them in day-to-day life. And that completely changes the way things are chosen. We, without realizing it, build houses for others. For when someone comes. So they won't think we are messy. So everything looks good. To meet expectations that many times are not even real, but that we still carry. And that's how we fill the house with things we don't need, only because it looks good, because it looks pretty, because that is expected. And in the end, the house ends up being a kind of stage, where we ourselves perform for others, even when we are alone. When I started to look at my house from this question, so simple but so honest, something moved strongly inside. I started to ask myself, without guilt and without long explanations, does this serve me? Not the visitor. Not the photo. Not the idea of how it should be. Me. My tired body. My real routines. My good days and my heavy days. And many things started to lose meaning. Not because they were bad, but because they did not sustain me. In Japan, they understand that a house is not a display window. It is a refuge. And when I accepted that, the house stopped demanding from me. It became more honest, simpler, more aligned with me. I no longer felt that I had to maintain an image. I felt that I could be me. And I swear, living in a house that does not try to impress anyone, but that takes care of you, is a peace that does not resemble any other. The seventh is very deep, and I want you to listen to it calmly, without defending yourself from it, without judging yourself, just letting it enter. The Japanese understand something that almost nobody ever told us. Mess is not laziness, it is saturation. It is not lack of willpower, it is excess. Excess of things, of stimuli, of small decisions that keep accumulating day after day until leaving us exhausted without knowing exactly why. Because tell me something honestly. How many times have you said to yourself, "I have to organize," as if it were a failure of yours? As if you were not organized enough, constant enough, disciplined enough. And the truth is another. You are not tired because you don't organize. You are tired because you have too much. Too many things asking for attention at the same time. Too many objects that you have to move, clean, think about where they go, decide if they stay or if they go. Each thing is a micro decision, and the body, especially at our age, gets tired of deciding all day. In Japan, they observe a lot this invisible wear. They know that a full house does not only occupy physical space, it occupies mental energy. Every time you look at a full shelf, even if you don't think it, your mind processes information. And when that repeats in every corner of the house, the tiredness becomes chronic. It doesn't go away by sleeping. It doesn't go away by resting. Because the stimulus is still there, all the time. Reducing, for them, is not losing. It is not impoverishing yourself. It is not being left with less. Reducing is resting. It is giving less work to the brain, less noise to the body, less demand to the eyes. It is allowing yourself to enter a room and not feel that something is calling you. That something is asking you to organize it, clean it, solve it. When I started to reduce from this place, I stopped feeling guilt. It was no longer, I have to be more organized. It was, I need to be less saturated. And that changes everything. Because you don't attack yourself. You take care of yourself. You start to let go not because you should, but because your body needs it. And when you reduce from there, rest does not arrive at the end of the day. It begins in the very moment in which you choose to have less. And the eighth, which for me sums everything up and that in some way embraces all the previous ones, is that the Japanese do not seek perfect houses. They do not chase the ideal image, nor the impeccable order, nor that feeling that everything is always under control. They seek kind houses. Houses that do not demand. Houses that do not make you feel that you are always late or that it is never enough. Houses that accompany real life, with its rhythms, its tiredness and its pauses. In Japan there is a very compassionate way of looking at the home. The house is not a goal, it is a companion. It is not there to be admired, it is there to sustain. And when I understood that, I stopped asking myself how my house looked and I started to ask myself how it made me feel. And that question, so simple but so honest, changed everything. I began to observe my spaces with other eyes. I entered a room and I asked myself, without twists, does my house take care of me or does it wear me down? And the body answered before the head. There were things that were not broken, nor were they ugly, nor were they out of place, but they demanded. They asked for attention. They asked for maintenance. They asked for energy that I no longer had. And I understood that not everything that can stay should stay. Because a kind house is not the one that has more things, it is the one that lets you lower your shoulders when you enter. It is the one that does not scold you. It is the one that receives you just as you are, even on those days when you don't feel like anything. When I started to let go from that question, I no longer felt guilt. I was not failing as a homemaker. I was taking care of myself. I was choosing to live in a space that would accompany me instead of demanding from me. And I swear that feels different. It feels like relief. Like permission. Like coming home, not only physically, but also inside. And now, as I promised you, I want to give you that final gift. And no, it is not a method, it is not a technique, it is not one more list of things to do. It is something much simpler and much deeper. It is a question. Just one. A question that you can carry with you without effort, without guilt and without demand. Every time you doubt whether something should stay or not, every time you have an object in your hands and you don't know what to do with it, ask yourself in a low voice, almost like a whisper only for you, does this make life lighter for me, or heavier? Nothing more. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to explain yourself. Your body knows the answer before your head. That question does not fail. Never. Because life, especially at this stage, is not about accumulating, it is about lightening. About removing weight. About making space. Space in the house, yes, but also space inside. And everything that you choose to let go of from that place is not a loss. It is a gesture of care toward yourself. It is telling yourself, I have already carried enough. And I want to close by speaking to you, looking at you with affection, woman, homemaker, who has sustained so much, so many times without anyone seeing it. Your home does not have to be one more burden on your back. It does not have to be an endless list of pending things nor a constant source of tiredness. Your house can be your rest. It can be your refuge. It can be that place where you lower your shoulders, where you breathe more slowly, where you don't have to prove anything. You don't need to do everything today. You don't need to have everything clear. You don't need strength, only honesty and a little tenderness with yourself. Start small. Start slowly. Start with affection. I am with you on this path. And we continue together.